So another one of the cartridge loadings that I've been working on off and on throughout the last year and playing with the 300 Blackout is a 225 grain Subsonic loading, and particularly that is with the Hornady ELD match. My Bergara 300 PRC does not actually like to throw these bullets at all, so I had a couple boxes sitting around and I've been playing with them. With about 11 grains of CFE black and all the way down to 9.8 grains, you can have anywhere from a 950 to 1060 foot per second subsonic load with these. The great thing is, if you live in a state where a pistol caliber AR or a pistol configuration AR is legal to hunt with, 300 Blackout can be utilized like a pistol cartridge. And in subsonic, like here in Nebraska, you have to maintain a certain level of velocity to have sufficient energy at 50 yards for it to be legal. Now, there is something to be said about energy not meaning everything when it comes to performance of projectiles. And so while I don't agree necessarily with the regulations, the current regulations in Nebraska are that at 50 yards, any pistol and pistol cartridge or cartridge used in a handgun has to meet a 400 foot-pound minimum requirement. Well, when launched between 1,030 and 1,080 feet per second, this 225 grain bullet maintains velocity to retain energy well above 400 foot-pounds of energy at 50 yards. Because this is a thin jacketed match bullet, it will obturate, upset, and expand all the way down to probably around 850 or 800 feet per second, giving this a lethal kill range of around 100 yards for whitetail. And while I don't plan on utilizing it for further than 50 or 75 yards, it is nice to know that it has a comfort zone of out to 100. This will be mostly a bow hunting distance kind of rifle cartridge for me for deer hunting, and is mostly for fun on the range. We're going to take this down, put a couple groups together out of my 7.5-inch barrel, suppressed with the Omega 300 by Silencer Co., and see what we can put together. So ladies and gents, we're down here at the river now, and we're going to take our 225 grain ELD-M load, and we're going to put a 5-shot group together at 50 yards, and I'm going to be shooting a B8 pistol target because I think that's appropriate given this is a 300 Blackout pistol, and we are looking at this from a hunting perspective. And so it looks like one of them didn't quite get seated deep enough. But one thing you do need to keep in mind, you're going to need a seating stem that can accept these long pointy bullets. A lot of the 300 Blackout stems are going to be for more blunt bullets, but you can modify those stems as I've been working on doing here, or you can purchase the correct stem. I have a cheapy Lee die set, and I put a factory crimp on all of these cartridges. I just fired one that wasn't quite perfect for the general lot to test accuracy and velocities, but I hit the 10-inch plate downrange, so we should be on the board and we can fine-tune our zero from there. This is a 7.5-inch AR pistol with an SBA3 brace on it, and we have the Silencer Co. Omega 300 again. So let's sit down, let's pop 5 shots into that B8 target, hopefully, if it's zeroed well enough, and see what we can get for accuracy just shooting out of the truck bed here. And again, using a red dot, this brace is not the most stable little thing. If you were shooting with an SBR, you would have a much better time, obviously, but potato, potato, we're gonna do the best we can. And for the intents and purposes of this round, we don't need it to be incredibly accurate. It just needs to land inside of an 8-inch circle out to 100 yards, which is more than capable of doing even with this cheapy little 7.5-inch PSA upper. But we'll see what happens. Let's get started. A little bit gassy. Not a one of those sounded like it broke the sound barrier underneath my muffs, at least. and perfect consistent ejection right back here. I have this tuned with a carbine 3-ounce buffer and a Sprinco white hot spring, which makes this 7.5-inch barrel suppressed run fantastic with supersonics and subsonics, as well as capable of running unsuppressed supers and subs. The subs are pretty weak ejection, but it will reliably run them and lock back. So it's not tuned for perfect shooting experience, but those subs are so gentle with the cycling that really doesn't matter. But it is a little bit gassy, as any AR will be when suppressed. So let's go downrange to that B8 and take a look and see what we did. So here we are at 50 yards, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I probably pulled that 5th round, and so I'm not too worried about it. That's more than acceptable for what I'm going to use it for. We can try that again and try and move our red dot over just a little bit. Won't take too much. But for all practical purposes, that would be more than acceptable for handgun hunting ranges. And we will get some velocities here in just a second. Okay, let's put 3 more rounds downrange and see how we do on paper, as well as get some velocities. And I do need to bump a few of these back. It looks like my seating stem creeped out, because those Lee dies are pretty cheap, but I got it in 300 Blackout just for fun, so I didn't want to spend a lot on it. But here we go. Let's put 3 on the board, see if I can calm my breathing, and give you some velocities. 3 foot from the muzzle with the chronograph. Here we go. 10:58. 10:59. 10:28. Nice consistent ejection, hitting the truck bed and bouncing right back towards me. No pressure signs, of course, using that 11 grains of CFE black. So 10:28 might be an error, or maybe I accidentally threw it a little bit low. I was using a Lee powder throw, making these expedient, but that average would still put you, with 3 shots at least, at about 10:40. So it's still legal by Nebraska standards for energy at 50 yards, and would not be in any noticeable difference, but well subsonic there. And our can is not getting very hot because we're not burning a lot of powder, and it is indeed hearing safe. So let's go take a look at that group. Pretty decent velocities. Each grid square is an inch, so just over 2 inches at 50 yards, which we would extrapolate that to be about 4 inches at 100. But that's probably mostly me. You can see we have some pretty dead on strikes here. Nice circular burn holes, not oblonged at all. So I think we're doing pretty good. The accuracy is probably all me, but again, I'm not really going to shoot this past 75 or 80 yards. I'm going to be putting myself, if I'm using this for hunting, inside of that 50-yard window, because I'm going to treat it like any other pistol cartridge and hunt with it appropriately. So I think it's plenty of fun. I think it has good accuracy potential. I just suck. But yeah, I mean, that is fairly consistent. We should probably back it out to about 100 yards and take a look at it. But as far as 50-yard zero goes, I think we're pretty good. I might move the dot just 1 more click in, since we're kind of bracketing the center here and off by about 1 inch. So maybe 2 more clicks actually. Anyhow, I think it's a decent little load and is easily replicable with the 220 grain ELD-X, which we may also try. So next up, we're going to take this and we're going to shoot at the target board, just hitting cardboard at 50 yards, and the camera's going to be at the target, so we're going to hear and see what it's like to send these downrange and dying light hunting kind of conditions, so that maybe we can kind of understand what it'll sound like to game animals when shooting, and then we'll wrap the video up. All right, so that's what it sounds like at 50 and then 75 yards. I fired 5 shots total, 3 at 50 and then 2 at 75 because I said, what the heck? Let's see if it makes any difference to the report versus the thunk that we'll hear at the target. I do want to make note too, kneeling at 50 and standing at 75. I did land all of them in the 8-inch circle of the B8 target. Let's take a look at that. So here's our original 5 right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, all inside of the 8-inch circle. If this was a doe standing at 75 yards or in, we would have put in 5 lethal hits into the vitals. So I think it's practical to use this short, handy little AR pistol and these subsonics with a suppressor to dispatch game animals. Is it the best grouping ever? No, but it was shot offhand. Is it that much worse than what was shot off the bench? Not really. We probably should put a magnified optic on it, get her rock solid, and see what she will do at some point. But hey, it works, and that's all we need for practical purposes. Well, ladies and gents, I certainly hope that you enjoyed this little bit of load data and range time fun here in central Nebraska. This has a practical purpose for hunting as well as maybe varmint dispatch quietly with a suppressor or any other purpose you could think of, but primarily it's just really fun on the range, and I think I'd like to harvest a deer or two with it. It's right there on the edge in warm weather, so maybe you want to drop it down to about 10 grains, but again, if you have some form of a foot-pound requirement at distance, whether it's out of a rifle or pistol like we do here in Nebraska, do keep that in mind so that you're in compliance with game regulations. Know it's a bit silly that this firearm as a handgun legally can be used with this cartridge to harvest deer in Nebraska, but if it was a short-barreled rifle or it had a 16-inch barrel and had the same velocities, it would not be legal for harvesting deer in the state of Nebraska because it would be a rifle instead of a handgun. So instead of arguing against those silly, arbitrary, capricious laws and potentially losing our hunting rights in the process if we do break a game regulation, we're just going to comply to the best of our ability and to the letter of the regulation. So, as always, guys, God bless. Keep your powder dry. I'll see you in the next video. Christ is Lord.